It's taking its time. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. So, of course, we have a few people here. They all say hello and that they miss you, but our very own Dr. Tony Hampton is here, our guru of weight loss, our family medicine practice doctor, who can teach you how to eat and get you off a lot of medicines and get you all great and healthy. I really think his passion is really to be a part of Iron Chef. I think that's it. But go right ahead, Dr. Tony Hampton.
Hey guys, happy to be here tonight. I am thankful to be here tonight. Had a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration with the family, and I hope you guys did too. It's so important that we cherish these moments and be grateful. No matter how you spent it, no matter who you spent it with, just knowing that you were here to good morning to or afternoon. It's really wonderful, and I really want to just say that first. I've been practicing. I can't believe it for about 28 years now as a family doctor. I later got some training that helped me to know a little bit more about obesity medicine, and now I'm working on nutrition and functional medicine because I do believe that we must let food be thy medicine. And so I'm really focused on that. And I hope each and every one of you walk away with nuggets every single time we get together so that you can better help your family be healthy. I'll say this before we have Dr. Graham introduce himself. Had a family come in today, and she was like, I'm trying to work on my diet, doc, but I do take care of my grandkids. What are they going to eat? And it was so funny to me because people think whole foods are things that our babies shouldn't eat. They need to eat chips and candy and potato chips and things like that. And it's kind of funny because when you think about it, if you think something's harmful for yourself, why would you then think it's okay for your babies, right? So I think we have to reframe how we think. And yes, the parents should be running the show, and the parents should be the ones who provide guidance for their babies. And I have not seen too many children starve to death because they didn't get processed food, didn't get their potato chips, didn't get their Doritos, didn't get their, colored water drink, whatever it is that they're trying to feed our babies. So I just want to let all those who have kids, who have grandkids, let's be adults and let's guide them. And then once you make that your lifestyle, they will certainly follow suit. So let's go ahead and move to our next guest or host, panel member.
That's my very own colleague, Dr. Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham, introduce yourself to everyone that's here.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I worked in the western suburbs of Chicago for about 30 years. In 2020, I started to go to work in the Congressman's office in Washington, D.C. It's really been a pleasure and an honor to be here. I just want to support the comments of Dr. Hampton and say that those things that have been promoted, the sweet, salty, crunchy stuffs, are designed to take the money out of your pocket and not help you one iota. And so he's right on the money when he's talking about that. It's about time that we start making the choices that help ourselves rather than hurt ourselves. So with that, I'll try and answer your questions if I can.
Taking the money out of your pocket. I love it. Want to say hey to Linda Johnson, who's here. She says, good evening, everyone. Want to say hey to Karen. Hey, Karen. Karen is here. She says, good evening. And Karen is sharing. So remember to share the video. I don't know, Tony. Dr. Hampton, I see someone here who I think has a fresh new haircut. What do you think, Tony? I think her name might be Dr. 100,
Thank you. It's not a fresh new haircut. I picked it out today. This is I got that 4C. I got that 4C hair. So sometimes you pick it out, it does. I'm a black one. My hair does all kinds of things depending on how we feel. Yes.
All right.
And so it's a pick out. I'm a pause my little thing and pick it out a little more in a minute. But thank you for having me, Nikki. thank you to the community out there and to Dr. Hampton, Dr. Graham. Excited to be here. We got to get into talking about, I know last week we talked about family safety during Thanksgiving and what we thought we were going to see. And we're looking at the rates is, if we got lax on the mask, it's time to do it again. Talk about going in and what that means for this season. So thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Dr. Hampton, take it away.
Yeah, I think that Dr. Maya is right. We do want to start to reframe how we think about the pandemic. Maybe even the weather's changing. I've seen a lot of people, even in my own family, get ill. I think last season there was a little bit more fear and paranoia. So, I didn't see a lot of flu. I didn't see a lot of anything except for those few people who did get COVID. People weren't really getting that sick because they were kind of a little obsessed about being safe. So I want to make sure that everybody listening to start thinking in those terms. Think about, how can I be safe? Talk to your family. What can we do different? Do we really have to go to that event? Do we have to really do it this way or that way? I think that that's what we want to do because we have a lot of question marks around the new variant. And more than likely, it's not going to be good news. It's going to be at least worse than Delta. And so if that's true, let's start those behaviors now. We have to socialize those behaviors. I know we got Christmas, New Year's, and other events to celebrate moving forward, but I think that's how I would frame it. I would like to maybe think about what just happened with the holiday and think about some of the things that maybe in the comments people can share some of the things they talked about. I know Brother Pete said to go into the, conversation trying to mitigate the risk of family members saying things that were negative, and we were trying to encourage. Let's frame the conversation in a positive way. So I'm curious if people who are watching, what types of things that you guys talk about over the holidays? What kind of mind? What are people talking about? And maybe I'll just start with some of the things we talked about. We actually had a good time. We actually listened to Adele. We saw that event that she had with Oprah, and I heard that voice, and I was like, oh my God, there are certain people on the planet who have a gift, and she would be one. So we had a chance to listen to that because I don't get a chance to watch TV often, and we didn't talk a lot about nutrition. In fact, we kind of had a conversation around, what are our favorite foods? And if you just take all the healthy living stuff out for a moment, we talked about what's your favorite food for the holidays. So maybe in the comments, people can share guiltlessly what their favorite foods are, because I think it's important that we don't just focus on the things that we shouldn't do. We focus on the things that we should, that we enjoy doing as well. But to frame that slightly differently, I tell people when I'm in clinic, I say, if you're making decisions about what you shouldn't do and shouldn't do in life, how about thinking about what you can enjoy instead of what you are going to try to avoid? Like, so for example, I tend to be a steak guy. So if you say to me, I can eat steak, and Dr. Mason's not here, so I can say this. If you say that, I know. Mute me. But if I can eat steak, right, and that's my thing, right, and I can eat it guiltlessly, then instead of focusing on I shouldn't eat this sugary thing, I can eat that steak, right? So I think a lot of what leads to success for the patients I talk to is they think about things from a different lens, as opposed to the lens that's more negative. We frame it from a positive lens. And then as they get the momentum going and they start to see the belt needs to be tightened up even more and more because they're losing weight, or the weight loss is occurring, or they have more energy or whatever. Those are the things I think that will move the needle. Most of your success in life, whether we're talking about nutrition or even in your desire to be successful, it's only 20% knowledge, it's 80% behavior. So So if you think, what they say, if you think it a certain way, you become it. And so I try to encourage people to always frame their perspective in a positive way. That doesn't mean you ignore the negative. It's just that what can I learn in this moment if it was an experience that was negative? I can't eat that sweet potato pie today, but what can I eat? And maybe me sitting down, like for Thanksgiving, I had green string beans and mac and cheese made of cauliflower. I had some and some turkey and things like that. So I focused on what I could have, and that's how. So I would ask anybody, think about what you guys talked about over the holidays. Maybe share in the comments, and maybe my colleagues can share, some of their thoughts about what kind of conversations that they have at the dinner table. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Was it, were we talking about politics? Were we talking about food? Were we talking about, something as simple as listening to a phenomenal singer, Adele, for example, share her gift. And it was just nice. And I just really think we should take a moment to reflect sometimes on what we just experienced. So you guys on the panel, how did your Thanksgiving celebration go? Were there any deep conversations, or was it just pass the pie?
Well, I know for a fact that Dr. Terry Mason was cleaning, deep steaming, washing, and cooking 17 pounds of greens. That I know for a fact. That's what he was doing while I was Tupperwaring from house to house collecting ham. Go right ahead, Dr. Mason.
No, you're absolutely right, Nikki. That's exactly what I was doing. I have been given orders by my daughter to prepare, and that that she was the queen of the creation of the family feast, and she parsed out assignments to different people, and so that was my assignment to do that, and then we all gathered at their house to have that, and we had a great conversation. There was a bit of a somber tone to Thanksgiving this year. One of our family members was hospitalized with COVID, and going through all of that was interesting and still going on to this moment, which is a whole nother conversation. It's one thing to talk about this. It's one thing to have sort of peripheral conversations, but when it hits a family member, uh, it makes it very, very different from one point of view. So we were dealing with that as well, but thus far, still sort of dealing with that situation. But everyone grateful to be here, and then I did spend a few moments talking about a little bit of some of the history that is always left out when we tend to think of for Thanksgiving. We get so consumed with the food, the physical food, that we don't take the time to sort of think about the spiritual and mental food that is also a part of that celebration, and to what it meant to. And I guess I'm very sensitive to it because I've spent time with I hate to call them this, but it's the descendants of the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Pontiac, the so-called, I don't even like to use the word Indians because it's an insult in my mind to use that term, because that's not what they were. It perpetuates a lie, a geographic, a major problem. So we had that conversation too, because I just always want to make sure that my grandchildren, because I know they won't get the truth anywhere else. So we have a responsibility to make sure that they get it at least at home.
Yeah.
Well, Linda Johnson. Oh, Linda
Yeah, go
Johnson
ahead.
says our family just talked about each other, just talked about enjoying each other, and they did karaoke and they danced. Okay, we should have been over their house. They were dancing and doing karaoke. We should have been over there. Maya, we'd had a good time, right? We should have been over there doing some karaoke. And since last November, they're still eating healthy somewhat, and that is fantastic. Linda Johnson has converted her whole family, so I love it. Mary Ballinger says, "Good evening, everyone. It is a blessing to see you all again." And Evelyn Shelton from Evelyn's Food Love says, "Since Thanksgiving, enjoying time with a few family members, not doing a lot. of gathering still. My son was recently hospitalized with COVID. Oh no. My son was recently hospitalized with COVID and he has a transplant and he's a transplant patient as well. So it was scary, but he's fine now because of getting those mono, yeah, antibodies, those things.
Yeah.
They're very good. And Mary Dowager says, indeed, Dr. Mason. So, Dr. Mason, you are exactly right. Our history is so important, and it is quite important for us to share that. I mean, how can we know where we're going if we don't know where we came from, right? So, Dr. Maya, how was your Thanksgiving?
Well, my family still did opted to do the Ziploc bag exchange
Mm.
this year. Um, my mom, that young lady is 70 years old, and we're not at a point where we're seeing a space where I don't know what age it is where the kids become, start making those decisions for our parents. All the while they be telling us how they was grown before we was born and things like that. But we decided to do the Ziploc bag exchange, porch exchange. So each of my family members made a dish, and then we would drive around and put it in, and then we would put a like a those lasagna pans, like aluminum pan
Mhm.
outside, and we just drive around and put the Ziploc bag in the pan. Um, and then my mom will wait a little while, take the pan out, and then we kind of get on the phone or Zoom. We did Zoom, but that didn't work out too well. So we talked on the phone and enjoyed the meal that we shared. Um, yeah. And I kind of really, it's something really special about that, like the drive around, and the care we put into that and the love you put into how we want to show up for our family. Um, like Dr. Mason, our days that day we didn't do it. I think we did it either the week before, like not. I mean, sorry, the day before. We ended up doing it the day after. But we really enjoyed each other. Uh, we talked on the phone, connected about a lot of things. I think at this time, definitely we want to talk about all the things we can do. Definitely, and that's one of the things we can do. I want to point out we've been on this call, and I don't want to sound like a doomsday person, but I do. Y'all know me. I'm a 100 person, right? We've been on this call how long? 18 minutes already. We didn't talk about two families that are experiencing somebody with COVID. It's y'all, and I'm not, and I don't mean to be doomsday, everything like that, but I don't want to gaslight kind of what went on in our communities and what can possibly go on in our communities if we kind of don't get it to the point where we're at least doing the mask and thinking about what it means to go out and how we handle going out if you're going to choose to go out, and then making the choice for our tribe, because history is history. We see what happens. A lot of times we don't need someone else to come and tell us to make the decision to start protecting our tribe early.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
That you are. So Mary Bauer just says special thanks. Spent Thanksgiving at home and on FaceTime. Okay, Evelyn says she loves that. Also, joyfully spent Thanksgiving at home, FaceTiming with family and friends. And what a wonderful idea, Dr. Mason. Dr. Maya, I love that. The what you call it, Maya? The
Ziploc bag?
drive-by.
Oh yeah. Just
You were
Ziploc
driving by, dropping off
bag.
pans.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
have a name for it, but I'm gonna come up with a name. I'm gonna come up with a name for it. Boom.
Should I check my front porch for my ham?
You ain't get it. Somebody must have took it off your front porch. Cause I know I put it there.
Because I have a ham addiction. I do. I have a ham addiction. I know, Dr. Mason. Come on. It's like twice a year. Twice a year. At Christmas. It's twice a year.
I'm not the food. I'm not the food police.
I have a ham addiction.
I'm not the food police. I I
I
think
love
that
you though,
the
but I
key
got to tell
is
you, I have a ham addiction. I have a ham addiction.
that's all right. You know, you confess.
So
So,
we have a question off Instagram. Right. See, I confess about my ham addiction. We have a question off Instagram that is asking, what is the new variant? Is there something other than Delta?
yeah,
You want to
it's
comment, Dr. Graham?
Yeah, it's interesting because different countries monitor their virus differently. And there are groups of countries that actually look at the genetic structure of different portions of this virus and give it a different name. And there's a new one that's emerged in South Africa that is very, very spooky in that not just has one mutation, but has 32 mutations. And the seriousness of this is those change the structure of that little spike protein that looks like a golf ball spike. And that affects how the vaccines and the monoclonal antibodies work. And it turns out that if we thought Delta was a bad actor, it's more contagious than Delta. So that's the reason why across the world, many countries are alarmed and have essentially tried to close their borders from people who live in the area where this has been found. The problem is the detection is far behind where it should be. And so this particular virus is probably spread to places where it is multiplying and has not yet been detected. So
Okay.
unfortunately, this is our new normal. Wherever we have groups of people who are unvaccinated, we provide a home for this virus where it can grow. And when it grows, it changes. In South Africa, only 25% of the population was vaccinated. So you've got a huge growth media for this virus to spread. And when it spread, it changes. It puts us all in trouble.
you know, Doug. To your point, I did a show yesterday with Perry Small, and we were talking about vaccinations. And one of the things that we talked about and I raised is that taking the vaccine is not an individual choice. It's not. And we talk about every individual. I totally reject that notion. And let me tell you why. Because what happens is, to your point, Doug, the only way that we can fight this virus is we have to create inhabitable places for it to live and multiply. So if you opt not to take the vaccine, what you're doing is you're allowing your body to become a willing manufacturer of these viruses, whichever ones tend to come up. And there'll probably be more variants as time comes along. And so when you choose not to do it, you are making a choice for everybody that you may come in contact with, family members, friends, community members, and everyone else. Because if the virus happens to find that you are a willing place, because the virus in and of itself can't multiply itself. So it needs a willing host that has lots of cells where they can invade and multiply themselves and then come out in the respiratory fluids or whatever other fluids and infect other people. So your decision not to be vaccinated is a decision to help expose your family, your friends, your neighbors, and your community, and to be a willing participant in allowing the virus to have a nice, safe place to replicate itself. And that's what it will continue to do. So I just wanted to say that because there's all this discussion about my right. No. You don't have a right in a pandemic to keep from doing what's necessary for the greater good to try and contain this situation.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna agree with Brother Mason here. We certainly want to live in a democracy, and but we never really did, though. I mean, since I've been in healthcare, I mean, I've always been required to vaccinate. Since I've been a child going to school, I've always been required to vaccinate. I mean, when you come out of the womb, we give the baby so many shots, some to prevent them. We give them vitamin K to prevent them from being at risk for bleeding. We do things because we don't want any babies dying from the trauma of birth and bleeding in their brain because they have a deficiency of a vitamin. So there's nothing that we do that doesn't factor in the entire population. It would be irresponsible for us to live in a world where we only thought of ourselves. That's just irresponsible. If you're going to live in a democracy and in a civilized society, these are the things you have to give up. But when I think about vaccines, I think about my father-in-law, and I think about him being an elderly guy with dementia, and I don't want to bring the COVID virus into my home where he may be. And so what I do is I get vaccinated, really not for myself, but maybe for him. I don't want to live in a community where we can't have our businesses open and we can't, I have to only talk to you through this virtual world like we're doing now. I want to be able to reopen communities and keep them open. But we can't do that if we allow even countries as far away as Africa not to be protected. It's really our responsibility to think of the entire world, because what goes on there will ultimately affect us, as was eloquently stated by Dr. Graham. I want to live in a world where if I do get COVID, I don't end up in the hospital. I don't end up with a severe infection. And most importantly, I don't end up dead, nor do I want that to happen to my family member. But the most important thing, I'm tired of this pandemic, guys. I'm thinking of, I've done 2 movies in 2021. I've done 1 comedy club, and I was in the back, and it was only people who were vaccinated was the people I were with, and everybody else. I mean, in terms of masks, nobody was wearing masks. I mean, so but I want to live in a world where I don't have to wear a mask at a comedy club. I want to live in a world where I can enjoy a Bulls game without worry. So those are the reasons, not just, and those are, you could argue those are selfish reasons too, right? Because let me go back to my father-in-law. If he's ill, guess who has to take care of him? So that's a selfish reason. So even if you do it for selfish reasons, let's do it, because now not only does he not have to suffer, but we don't have to suffer. So we're all in this together, no matter how you frame it, try to twist it and turn it. The feeling that people have when they make a decision not to, and then they end up ill, or they make somebody else ill, you can't take that back.
Maya, you look like you got something to say.
I one of my really close friends, I met her on the green circle in kindergarten. She's actually a psychologist, and her family originally did not get the vaccine. And if I can tell you how she sounded and how she cried when her husband was in the hospital, because they were waiting, not sure about the vaccine being right for them, and like really focused on I'm going to wait. And she called me crying. And this is a God-fearing woman, prays all the time, we're going to wait till we feel led, and she's one of my close friends. And I consistently told her, Jenny, sometimes whatever you believe in may send me to call you to tell you to get the vaccine, and waiting, and like they were saying, making an individual choice led to her husband being in the hospital. And she called me. She said, I'm in the hospital. They're going to keep my husband. The husband felt ill, and they found out that he had gotten COVID, and he was not at a point where he could go home. And she called me and was like, what should I say on the way back? Because now I have to go and tell our 3 boys that their dad isn't coming home, and I don't know when he's coming home and if he's coming home. So we drove to the hospital, and we're driving back home without him.
Maya,
Yeah,
that's such a touching story. And I think about people who, for whatever reason, did not decide to become vaccinated. I don't want to get into that plethora of reasons or things they said. But it's a whole different story when we're having conversations about somebody who didn't, and then they ended up in the hospital, and then you get a call saying they're not breathing well, and they have to put a breathing tube in for them and connect them to a machine. And then they find out that while they're laying on their back, they're not, the oxygen is not getting to the lungs as well as it should, and so they want to flip them over and put them on their stomach, or what we call proning. And then the blood pressure is not stable, and so, and then that whole cascade that that happens. And then you get to the point where it doesn't appear that nothing is working, and you start having this multi-system organ failure, and people then want to get out all kinds of praying and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, all you really needed to do was listen to get the answers of the prayers of the people that wanted you to go to wanted them to go get a vaccine. To think that there's going to be a miracle now is not realistic. The damage is done. That's why I even heard someone saying that they had a friend that went there and was not doing well and wanted to know if they could get a vaccine now that they're in the hospital with active COVID. And we said, no, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. And you can't wait till the things happen. And I'm going to tell you that I don't want to have anybody that's in hearing of or seeing of what we're talking about here tonight. Don't wait. This is just because it hasn't happened to you don't mean it won't. Because it hasn't touched your family doesn't mean it will not. Just because you have not been up close and personal to see somebody get terminally ill and die won't mean that you won't. Because if we don't work together, and if we don't encourage one another, forget about what you believe. And I always tell people, belief is for church. Okay, we're dealing with hard science here, and we see this is not going anywhere anytime soon. As we see other variants, I'll say this and stop. It was like when we were growing up in Inglewood. And I'm not embarrassed to say that we had lots of roaches in our house. And we used to get Black Flag and Raid and all manner of sprays and bombs and what have you. And, what happens is, and I'm probably oversimplifying, but after so many times of doing that, the roaches would just be like, bring it. Whatever it is, bring it. Because they had, I believe, mutated in such a way that these chemicals were not effective against them anymore. And they become resistant, so to speak. And they're new children because the roaches multiply very fast. So, and I'm not an entomologist and I don't play one on TV, but I just want folks to know that nature finds a way. Nature finds a way, and most things want to live. And you've got to understand that this is no joke. And with more of these variants coming, we are not out of the woods yet. I'm not trying to do gloom and doom, but we got to take this very, very serious. And for all those people out there that know people who are not getting vaccinated, who are choosing to still be in close proximity to you, I would have some serious issues with that continued behavior.
And I was, really, I really want to remind people that, you just want to give yourself the best chance to be a winner when you're if you're playing a sport, if you're in a fight, and we can sit here all day and talk about how important it is for you to live a healthy lifestyle and and wear masks and stay away from people and all those things. And because you're, in school they teach us about the innate immune system. And so that's going to protect us because we do have a lot of things in our body capable of protecting us, particularly if we've taken care of our body. But man, if you had an opportunity to go to war, not just by yourself, but you got troops that can come along for the fight, and those troops are prepared to fight that war because they were, given a little message, a message that tells them exactly who they need to kill. And they have their weapons specially designed to kill the enemy. Would it not make more sense to, elicit the support of that team of soldiers to protect you? Because what you leave behind is devastating for your family. It's not just the loss of your income and your presence, but your emotional support that person will not have. And quite frankly, one of the biggest challenges I face in clinic is the despair people have when they have lost people. I mean, they're just torn apart. They can't even function, not just for a week or two, months, sometimes years. They're still holding on to the loss of a family member. And if you color that with a decision that was not in their best interest, a decision to not be vaccinated, imagine what that feels like. And we never want to blame people, but we do want to acknowledge that it's a painful thing to go through. And we have to let our life experiences teach us. So if our life experience has told us that in our health system, the last time I checked, it was almost 93, 94% of all the people in our hospitals at Advocate Aurora are unvaccinated. That's a life experience that should hopefully make me question a decision not to be vaccinated. And these are not just numbers, these are like real people. If that one person in the hospital is your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your babies, I'll just call all the kids babies. What would that feel like? And I have to have these kind of conversations even with my own kids because they, when you're a teenager or a young adult, you just don't think about these things because your life experience is different. What's different? Well, I'm 53 and my kids are 22 and 24. So that's 30 additional years of life experience that have prepared me to make decisions that are not the same as theirs. And you can say, well, you guys don't understand. You guys are old is what they may say. Well, you know what? That's not the answer. The answer is that life experience has made us a little more cautious. And it hopefully will protect us, not to make us paranoid, but protect us and make better decisions. So I think we need to really think about, do you want to go to war with or without some soldiers by your side? And I just want to go to war with soldiers because I want to be here so I can continue these conversations. I can be here for my kids, my future grandkids, hopefully, great grandkids, hopefully, and all that's possible if we make better decisions. So I want everybody to just pause, reflect, think about, what's in the best interest of my family. I have not had one patient who has been vaccinated that has suffered in any major way. Have I had people have issues with the vaccine? Of course, but nothing that would lead to their death. I have not seen that. And if you look at the data, you will not see that often at all. So when you start comparing that potential to the potential for, dying from not being vaccinated, it's a very serious matter to consider. And again, I just want everybody to just really pause. Look at the people in your family right now. Look at the people in your home right now. Imagine that person not being there. What would that feel like? Would you have made a different decision? And I just want you to reflect on that because people are You know, I mean, every day in Illinois, people are dying. I mean, the numbers anywhere on the low end, 10, 15, all the way up to 50 every single day. And there's a percentage of those people, a large percentage, that probably would not have died because the vaccine keeps you out of the hospital, keeps you from having severe infection, and of course, keeps you from dying.
And I for those people that are wondering, like, okay, this different variant is out. What do I do? Well, what we know is the mask, the distance, and historically staying. If we're a person that has the ability to stay at home or what we call the shelter in place, it's not a bad idea to start thinking about that now, and utilizing the tools that we've learned from the past surges and applying them early. There is still hope there, but we got to be honest. We have to pull together. Dr. Hampton, a point, and I'm actually kind of getting a call about a person right now, so I'm gonna have to hop off that was exposed and is now having symptoms. So I do have to hop off. Um, but I do want to point out, Dr. Hampton, you said what percentage of the people that are being hospitalized right now at Advocate were not vaccinated? What
Correct.
percent was
So
that?
it was 93 to 94% of the people in our hospitals are people who were not vaccinated. So in other words, you only have about a 5% chance of going to the hospital if you got the vaccine. That's pretty good odds. I like that. I like those odds. So all it's saying is that the resources of the hospital, if one of us started having chest pain right now and we had to go to the hospital, we would struggle to find a hospital bed. I wouldn't mind that if it was not because somebody chose to make a decision that would impact me. So for those who don't think it'll impact others, go to the emergency room right now. And I guarantee you, the emergency rooms were crazy before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
now you have the additional issue with the pandemic, and you may find that they even count those deaths? The people who can't receive care or were in the emergency room for 10 plus hours and decided to leave. That happens all the time. They actually calculate those rates of leakage. People just can't wait anymore, and they just say, I'm just going to wait. Then they go home, and sometimes they go home and don't do it. So the collateral damage is beyond just the fact that that person who did not get vaccinated may be harmed. It's actually way bigger than that.
And I don't know if you can comment on this, Dr. Hampton, but it's not just getting a bed. It's getting a bed appropriate for the severity of your disease. So there might be you can't put some of these people in a regular room. They require an intensive care room. And in most hospitals, it's not like you got 200 or 100 ICU beds, and you got to have a ventilator if the people aren't able to breathe. And they have to be, particularly if they've got some underlying condition, they're diabetic or they're obese or they have other kinds of issues that make this condition even more difficult to treat. But even the resources in terms of the people to man the ventilators and to set them up and to make sure they're working properly and to now prone people, because now you have to get people to come up and turn the patient from one side to the other. So there's a lot of things that go into this, and it can be a very difficult situation, particularly in those communities where those resources are not as plentiful as they are in other communities. And so you're really rolling the dice that are actually stacked against you. And I'm not trying, believe me, I am not, and I'm trying to have the same tone as Dr. Hampton, who does this very nicely. But this is serious. It don't get more serious than this. We are literally talking about life and death by a simple decision to take a shot. I mean, when you tell me that 99% of the people who died from COVID were unvaccinated people, that's a statistic that I've heard. I mean, what does that say? That says 1% of the people that died had a vaccination. I mean, I'm not sure the converse is always true, but people, this is serious, and you need to move away from your foolishness and these little ideas that you have and these things that people are telling you, because when you lose a mother, when you lose a father, when you lose a brother, when you lose a sister, you don't want to hear that. You're not going to want to hear that. And you're going to be saying, why did I listen to you? Why did I listen to you? Because if I hadn't and we had done this, we probably wouldn't be going through this. You can't wait till you get to the hospital in the emergency room and you're short of breath and your test comes back and then say, well, can I get a COVID vaccine? It's too late. It's too late. This virus attacks us in ways that we've not seen before. And once it starts waging its war, I'm telling you, it goes to town and it ravages your lungs. It ravages your circulatory system. It ravages anywhere that you have any inflammatory related type of disease. And I stop because I'm getting full, because this is just hard. This is just hard to continue to just keep saying over and over and over, and people not listening, not doing what needs to be done. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else to say it. It may be very soon that all of us may know somebody who died from COVID. And I hate to say that.
Or multiple people with
Or
Josh
multiple people, yeah.
Or just multiple. And I hope our listening audience is really listening to Dr. Mason, because sometimes you just get speechless. You really don't know what to say to people when they ask you questions that you have answered multiple times. You take a deep breath and you answer those questions again. And in saying that, I'm asking those people to make sure that you are listening to our doctors here on the panel. And I hope you really just heard the voice from Dr. Mason's heart just then, because I want to answer, and I know you didn't ask me to answer, but I want to answer these two people who sent messages on Facebook Messenger. I'm going to put it out here for the doctors to hear, but I want to just make a comment on both of them. So one person says, I understand and I get it. However, I'll get the shot if you tell me what's in it. I want to answer you. I want to comment on your question. The doctors can comment as well, but I want to comment on that question. Here's my comment to that question. What's in the vaccine is actually listed. If you go online and you can look up Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, there is a list of what is in the virus. So it's there. So when you ask me what's in it, it's already listed for you. I can give you a copy of that list. If you send me your email address, I will forward you a copy of that list. But here's what I want you to do for me. I'm going to give you that list for free of what's in all three. Send me your email address. Send me that in Messenger just as well. However, I want you to find out for me what's in a chicken nugget, what's in a can of Pepsi, what's in unprotected sex. Send me those three. Send me that. Send me that. Because the information about the virus is out here and it's there. And it's there for you to get. And it's listed. It's not hidden. This is nothing they're hiding. When you get the vaccine, or even when you go to get the vaccine, they give it to you. They hand it to you in a sheet of paper. And then they tell you how here's back sign up for this. Then they ask you to share any side effects you have. You get all of that. When you pull up to McDonald's and you order some chicken nuggets, all you get is chicken nuggets. And if you're looking on the kiosk board to see what's in there, it just tells you how many calories. It's not telling you anything else. That's all it's telling you. That is it. So that's that question. And our second question says, what about the people that did die from COVID but was vaccinated? What do you say about that?
Mm.
Well, I know the doctors can give you just even more information on that, but I do want to have a comment on that just as well. Let's be clear. When some women or even some men get breast cancer, it's not a death sentence for everyone. It all depends on how what Dr. Mason and Dr. Terry Hampton tells you all the time, how you treat your body. How strong is that body before we start? Where are you before we start? Now, in saying that, if you had a whole bunch of comorbidities going on when you got whatever you got, you can get a common cold, you can get pneumonia, whatever. If there's a lot of comorbidities going on, you're going to have a lot more difficulty with trying to get through whatever it is. If you are severe diabetic, fall and break your leg. Break your leg. Trust, the person who does not have diabetes is probably going to heal quicker and faster than you. And you may have some problems with that. So we have to watch how we treat our bodies here. And for those who read the Bible, of course, the PK, the pastor's child, is going to tell you. The Bible says that your body is a temple. It's not just talking about fornication and things of that sort. It's talking about how you treat that body, how you rest it, how you feed it, how you hydrate it. The Bible tells us that. It even tells us that cleanliness is next to godliness. That's what it tells us. But go right ahead, doctor. Attack that question.
So I think there's something that I'd like to add to what Dr. Mason's been saying. And we've been talking about this maybe in terms of medical scientists. I want to take a different approach because I'm willing to bet that both Dr. Hampton and Dr. Mason have been in the ICU as I have, and we've watched a patient's life slip through the fingers. We've seen them taking that downward spiral, and we know how agonizing it is to watch when you're helpless and you can't do anything. And we understand the impact on the families. So I think what we're trying to say is we want to protect you from that experience. So I'm going to answer the question about the vaccine because my daughter got the vaccine. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that she used to work in a hospital in the ICU taking care of COVID patients. And she got the booster and she got COVID. Now, she was lucky. She survived, but I'm speculating the reason why she was survived because her body was prepared to deal with the virus. So the question I have for you is, if you go out and you kayak or you go out, you usually wear a life preserver. And you do that because if you get knocked out of your kayak, you can't tread water indefinitely. You stay there to stay afloat so you can make it to shore. The vaccine's kind of the same thing. It's going to keep you afloat till you get to shore. If you're in that kayak and you go out in Lake Michigan and you flip, most of the time you'll never make it back to shore. So for me, the question of getting the vaccine is kind of a no-brainer. Two other ways to look at this. If you've had the vaccine, but it's been more than 6 months, you may not have enough protection. If you've had the vaccine and you have other conditions, you may not have enough protection. So now we know you not need just a vaccine, but you need the vaccine and the booster. So the question I'd ask you is, if you live around a lake, do you go out with a life jacket or you go out without? Can you swim to shore that long distance in that ice cold water? I can't. I'm getting the vaccine. I
Yeah,
trust the vaccine.
I like that. I like again, it's about risk mitigation. And Dr. Graham is right. You can't say you don't know what's in the vaccine. It's a Google search, you know. Now, if you don't understand what a messenger RNA is, you don't understand what a lipid is, which is basically fat, that layer that protects it. If you don't understand, they have to put some sugar water in it, you know, but it's really nothing in it beyond that for you to be worried about. So there's all the questions are answered. We talk about COVID over and over again. You can, you know, there's no excuse in a world that I mean, imagine, I remember when AOL, you know, remember that sound we used to hear? I mean, we couldn't even do a Zoom meeting. It was impossible. And if you had a video, it was horrible. Now we can watch Netflix and do all of those things on our phone. It's amazing. So sometimes the gift that the man in the sky or woman, Nikki, has given us, sometimes we don't see it. We're just so blind to it. And it's a miracle that they were able to come up with a vaccine. And I can explain how so quickly, but to do it so quickly, that's a gift. You're looking for a sign. Well, if you're watching this, you got another sign. Um, Maybe it was a family member who got ill. Maybe it was somebody famous that you admire who got ill. You got plenty of signs that should be your guide. So the vaccine is very simple. In some ways, it's simpler than some of the previous vaccines in terms of its components. I just think that these vaccines are really designed. And when we started this conversation, we said death, hospitalizations, and severe illness. That's really what the vaccine's about. There has never been a vaccine created that has been 100% effective. And every time I see somebody who's been vaccinated who succumbed to it, it's rare to find somebody who succumbed to it who's been vaccinated unless they were immunocompromised, as being suggested by Dr. Graham. They were either had a lot of illnesses on top of that, they probably weren't well controlled. Even if you're going through something, let's just say you just experienced trauma, or let's just say you're really not doing well at your job, you're under a lot of stress, or let's just say you just don't sleep well. Those things will put your immune system into a state where it can't work well. So there are there are many reasons why people struggle. But what we don't want you to do is to not wear your life jacket. If you don't wear your life jacket when you had an opportunity to wear it and you're in deep waters, in that moment when you get tired, or you get people have died in water because they got a cramp. Think about that. Now, when do you predict you're going to get a cramp? You don't know. So if it happens when you're in the middle of the water and you can't do the things you need to do to survive that cramp, and you can't think straight, and maybe you don't even think about floating or anything like that, so why not have a vest on just in case? So I love that analogy, Dr. Graham, because ultimately I want to be here for my family, and I want to live my purpose, which is to help spread messages of healing so that no other person has to succumb. And I just had a patient today who was sharing, if only my mom knew you 10 years ago, she would still be here. You hear things like that, and it only inspires me to be here for the next person whose mom I can reach. And that's how you have to live this life. You have to make decisions that will allow you to be here longer so you can, grow, get wiser, and help your family and be here present for them. So when we have another Thanksgiving next year, you'll be here to celebrate it.
And I just can't underscore how important what Dr. Graham and Dr. Hampton have said. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. This is not something where you can play with this. You cannot. And I don't care if you think that it's all doom and gloom that I'm talking about, because it is doom and gloom. Because this virus is doing this. Now, we got other things that we're dying from, and I'll be the first to admit that that's true. And we have other things that we're dying from, because some of the reasons that we're dying from these other things are similar to the reasons why we're dying from COVID. And I would be remiss if I didn't take 30 seconds out here to talk about, we have to be better stewards of the things that we put in our mouths. We know the things that are good, and we know the things that are not. I don't need to go through a list of them because we've talked about them ad nauseum on this show, but we will talk about it some more. So you want to get the foods, more of them and from where I sit, more of them that are vegetables and fruits. You want to get good. You want to get sleep. Sleep is important. You need to get restful sleep. You need to take some time out for yourself to just help refresh yourself, whether it's meditation, whether it's a walk or a run or whatever it is that you need to do for you to get some time. You need to think about how you exercise not only your body, but your mind and your spirit. All of these things are important. And you need to, love is important. Love is really important. And it's important to get it and give it. And these are all things that help you. And if you need to meditate, if you need to think about something beyond yourself and beyond this idea, as we move into the most concentrated era of conspicuous consumption coming up into the next set of holidays, where it's really not about the spirit of the holiday. It's about, already they're talking about the money that we're trying to get on the Black Mondays and all this other kind of stuff. So I want people to put as much time and energy into thinking about their internal health as they do their external whatevers, things you buy, you ride in, you watch, and all that stuff. Think about this, because this machine here is God created, and you've got to take care of it. You're the steward of it. And if you don't take good stewardship, it won't last. And you need to make sure you do all the things you can to protect it, and know that we love you here. We want to see you thrive and continue to do well. And that's why we do this every single Monday evening.
Absolutely. So well said. As always, the bishop has closed the service. Here's when we pass the collection plate. As always, the bishop has closed the service. You know, Evelyn Shelton, ooh, Evelyn, I love it. Evelyn says, Nikki, I will make you a brown sugar and bourbon glazed ham. All right, Evelyn, let's just replace that brown sugar because I'm doing keto. I know, Dr. Mason, I know, don't say no. Let's replace that brown sugar with the mustard and glaze it that way. That'll be perfect. Virginia Knight says, evening, everyone in North Carolina. Okay, so she is on vacation watching. I love it. Assisting a sick family member. Thanksgiving was awesome, and she did not gain 1 pound. All right, Virginia. Audrey Jaycock says, good evening to everyone. Mary Ballinger asked a question about the new variant, the new strain, and I think you guys really discussed that for. Doretha Johnson is here, and she says, good evening to everyone. Dorothy Murphy is here, and she says, hello, everybody. Evelyn gave a little explanation about how she just don't understand why people won't get a shot. She also referred to that can of Coca-Cola. She says, you don't know what's in a can of Coke. And that she will probably never come out of her mask. She means ever. And Evelyn, I'm with you. Just ask Maya. That's why Dr. Green always talks about my mask, because I make my mask fun and conversation pieces because I'm not coming out of it. So I know exactly where you are. Everyone is loving on all the doctors here as always. As they always do. Yolanda Williams is here and she says hello. Jackie Robinson Ivy is here and she says hello just as well. Are the people opting to not get vaccinated for religious reasons is a large part of the population? That's an interesting question. We should attack that next week. Let's discuss that. And she also says amen to Dr. Mason and some of the comments and everything that he shared. Well, I know you guys hate to hear me say this, but our time has come. It's our time is up. But we'll be back next Monday, same that time, same that channel right here to share this information with you. And the congressman will be here with us just as well. He was a little stuck today and couldn't get here, but he'll be here with us on next Monday. So as we always do, we go around the table really quickly and we say until our next Monday. So Dr. Douglas Graham, you will be here forever, regardless of if your fellowship is over or not. So now, Dr. Douglas Graham, you're until next Monday.
So I know that we've had some bad news tonight, but I'd say this is not the time to give up hope. If this variant turns out to be bad, there will be a new vaccine booster by the beginning of next year. So we will have the tools to fight it. We just don't want to be its victims. So the rules remain the same. You got to do the same, but you can't give up hope. You got to persevere.
That's right. Let's not be a victim. I love it. Dr. Terry Mason, you're until next Monday.
I agree with what Dr. Graham has said. I think that we've given you a lot of information. It wasn't meant to be doom and gloom. It was meant to show you the seriousness of the thing that we're dealing with. But we also gave you the tools to fight it. And that's all you've got to do. All you've got to do is do what you need to do. You wear your mask, get your vaccines. And when it's time for a booster, get the booster. Don't question why you got to get the booster. You got people smarter than all of us here that are figuring out that that's what we need to do. So when it comes time for me to get another booster, I wouldn't care if I had to get it every month. I'd get it. I'm not saying that we're there yet, but if that's what comes down to keep me, my family safe, That's what I'm going to do. And I would urge you to follow the real science.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mason. Just for those inquiring minds that may want to know, I got my booster on Friday. Friday morning at 11:15, I got my booster. I'm going to post the great photos of me getting my booster. And I think I probably lost 3 pounds behind it just because I got it so quick. And for those who are going to ask me, what was my side effects? Okay, I had the Moderna series. So I had my two vaccines of Moderna early in the year, and then I had my Moderna booster on Friday at 11:15. What was my symptoms from it? So Friday I felt a little tired, but it didn't stop me from working and doing what I needed to do. Just felt a little slow. Saturday I had a headache, a small headache, and of course my arm hurt. But you can pinch me and my arm hurt because I am such a girl. So my arm hurt. Is my arm still tender today? Yes, it is. But did it stop me from getting dressed? No, it didn't. So just go and get your booster. Dr. Tony Hampton, you're until next Monday.
Well, I'm very proud of you, Nikki, for getting your booster. And I also want to say that when people are faced with a decision about mixing vaccines, all the research I've seen suggests that that's probably not a problem at all. You could argue that when you're in a situation where you're being offered a different version, some would argue that you may get a better immune response because now it's kind of asking your immune system to work slightly differently. So it may actually be more effective. So don't be afraid of it. Certainly do whatever you feel comfortable with or what your clinician advises. But I just want to say out loud that just get the vaccine. What's available and mixing is okay. Going back to that comment that was mentioned earlier about, knowing what's in things, and Nikki, is something in what's in Coke, right? Well, I can tell you what's in Coke: fructose corn syrup. I had a patient today who had maybe it was a 20-ounce Coke, and she was new to me, and I said, so let's just take a quick look at the bottle, and I just reminded her that fructose corn syrup, those 70 carbs in that 120-ounce drink was equivalent to 18 teaspoons of sugar. Now, anybody who makes Kool-Aid knows how much sugar goes in Kool-Aid. But very rarely do you drink an 8-ounce bottle of Coke, which is 9 teaspoons of sugar. Do you ever think about the sugar? I know no one who would consume 9 teaspoons of sugar or 18 teaspoons of sugar ever. It would never. So I just want people to pay attention. It's okay to know what's in things, but it's particularly important to know what's in your diet. And the last thing I'll say is that we've all been blessed with technology to help us in so many ways. I'll be upgrading my phone for Christmas, right? And I'm amazed at what technology has done. It's unfortunately put some companies out of business, like Kodak and the people that make the flashlights and things like that, because the phones do so much. But don't miss your blessing. Sometimes the blessing is right in front of you and you can't see it. So make sure you pause for a moment, recognize that very smart people, not the people on this panel, I'm talking about those scientists who spend long hours, long nights doing research. They have really given us a gift. And I was so relieved when I got my first shot of my vaccine. And I want you to be relieved. And at least you've done what you can. Because I really believe in my heart that because I'm vaccinated, I won't die. Can I get COVID? Absolutely. I'm a healthcare. I see sick people every day. But will I die from it? I just don't think so. Because I think that my body, how I take care of my body, the fact that I got vaccinated, I try to exercise, a couple of times a week. And I think all of those behaviors are the things that will keep us here. So I encourage you guys to do the same and just do a little bit at a time as you try to improve your health. It's just one little bite of the elephant every day. And one day you'll look around and the elephant's gone. So you can handle this, you can do it. And people who are, who have done less in life than you have been successful. So why not you?
Absolutely. I've got to read Sandra Rowe's comment to Dr. Mason. She says Dr. Mason is going to have people looking for love in all the wrong places.
I don't understand that, Nikki. What did you, let Nikki explain that to me?
That's a song. It's a song, looking for love. I'm not getting a song. I'm gonna sing you that song. I'm gonna sing it to you. It's a country western song.
Oh, I know the song, but I'm trying to understand how is it relevant? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, because you had said earlier that love is important and
It
that you to
is.
give love and to receive love, and it is. It really is. So she said it's gonna be some people out here so busy trying to give some love, they're gonna look for it in all the wrong places.
Yeah,
Sandra
but just
wrote in the
make sure it's real.
right. That you see, that's when it's the right love.
Make
That's
sure
when
it's
it's
real.
right. That's
Don't
when
have
it's
me take
right.
another text now, but let's
Come
make
on,
sure.
Bishop. Come on. And we will end with Marianne Jackson's comment. And it's my favorite Looney Tune at the end. If you guys all remember Bugs Bunny, Marianne Jackson says, got my booster a couple weeks ago, sore arm for a couple days. That's all. So, folks, that's all, folks. That's my favorite from Bugs Bunny. That's all. See you guys next Monday. Have a great one.
Bye.